This is Matthew Kratter's Bitcoin University. Today I want to talk about Bitcoin and the evils of money printing. And today's video is a follow-up to my previous video, which was called Salty No Coiner Hates Bitcoin, in which I discussed this essay called The Bitcoin Fallacy by Michael Kendall from July of 2025. And today I want to focus on a couple sentences from that essay that I think were especially important. He writes, "A currency can't have a fixed supply. It has to expand with growth relative to a monetary standard of reference to maintain stable value. Never in the thousands of years monetary history of the developed world has there been a fixed supply currency. It's ridiculous to even consider." Now, Michael Kendall hasn't just been wrong about Bitcoin since 2017, when Bitcoin was at $4,000 per coin. It's actually much worse than that. The thing that Kendall hates the most about Bitcoin is actually Bitcoin's most important characteristic, namely its fixed 21 million coin supply. Now, to be fair to Kendall, most economists hate the idea of a fixed money supply. That's ultimately because most economists work for central banks, think tanks, or universities that themselves are directly or indirectly funded by the central banker, money printers. So they become apologists for large government and central banker intervention in the economy. Keynesian economics is really one of the main founding myths that's used to justify money printing and large government intervention in economies. So it's really not surprising that if you study economics in government-funded universities, which includes, of course, both private and public universities, given the way that student loans and research grants work, they're all from the government, essentially, or backed by the government. So it's not surprising that if you study economics in government-funded universities, you will end up studying a version of economics, almost certainly, that exists solely to provide the intellectual justification for stealing wealth from people and using it to expand the government. John Maynard Keynes, when he wasn't sleeping with underage boys, advocated for a centrally planned, almost Soviet view of the economy, where wasteful government spending funded by money printing is used to dampen natural economic cycles, and even more free market monetarists like Milton Friedman, for example, advocate for the idea of an expanding money supply. So all economists seem to like this idea. If you're enjoying this video so far, I'll just pause really briefly here to ask you to help support this channel's educational mission. Hit the subscribe button. That does really help. Leave a like, leave a comment, question, suggestion for a future video, and share this video with a friend or family member. So what's the problem with the growing money supply? The problem is that it dilutes the holdings of existing savers, turning the money into a melting ice cube that doesn't hold its value very well over time, as I like to share this chart of the US dollar, losing purchasing power over the last 100 years. An increasing money supply robs savers of their economic energy, making it impossible to save for the future, keeping people on an economic treadmill where it's impossible to get ahead because the currency is constantly being debased. Now, that's the dire situation of Gen Z and Gen Alpha now, and the real reason why it's so difficult for them to get ahead and will remain difficult as long as we're on a fiat standard. Then if you try to invest in stocks or otherwise move further out the risk curve in an attempt to preserve the long-term purchasing power of your savings, the government then comes with its other hand and robs you via capital gains taxes. You end up getting taxed actually when all you're trying to do is just preserve your money's purchasing power, much less expand it. So money printing and taxation steal from a population, impoverishing them. And then to make matters much, much worse, it then transfers that economic energy to the most violent, the most incompetent, the most illegitimate institution in the world, namely the government, where the economic energy is used to expand the bureaucracy, to fight unnecessary foreign wars of aggression, to provide kickbacks to the political class and their friends, and to fund fake science like climate change, for example, whose conclusion is that the government needs to take even more control over the economy. It's funny how the science works when it's government funded. This is why money with an unfixed supply is so evil, and why Michael Kendall is so wrong about Bitcoin. Money with an unfixed supply massively expands the power of the state and the bankers at the expense of the people, basically ends up turning your country into an open-air prison camp. Now, fortunately, Bitcoin fixes this with its capped money supply. We can see here the maximum supply of 21 million coins being asymptotically approached as we go out in time. This is actually measured in thousands of blocks. And then we can see the effective inflation rate, in other words, the money supply growth rate, plummeting over time because Bitcoin does have this 21 million maximum cap. Now, Bitcoin doesn't need an increasing supply because Bitcoin's monetary power expands as the purchasing power of each Bitcoin unit goes up over time. The max supply stays the same, but the appreciating price and purchasing power of each of those units gives Bitcoin a larger market cap. Namely, you can calculate the market cap as just 21 million coins times Bitcoin's price. That gives you the market cap. And as this market cap expands, it enables Bitcoin to service larger and larger parts of the global economy until it's able to service the entire global economy. Bitcoin is not a leaky economic vessel like fiat or even gold. Now, gold was the best money in the world before Bitcoin came along, but even gold is a very leaky economic vessel, since at 2% supply growth, the total supply doubles every 35 years. So that's economic energy getting diluted and drained away from the savers. Once you understand these facts, you will then realize why Bitcoin is going to go up forever against both fiat and gold, as has been happening for the past 16 years. This is a chart of Bitcoin versus the dollar. This is a log chart, obviously, going up the entire time with some fluctuation, and the same is true for gold. This is why Bitcoin is the best money in the world and will continue to steal market share from all of these lesser forms of money that are leaky economic vessels. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to hit the subscribe and like buttons. Hit the notification bell if you want to be notified when I publish my next video. And let me know your questions and comments in the comment section below. Thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.